When we talk about ex situ conservation, we generally think about animals, but we also need to remember that ex situ conservation concerns plants and fungi. And if we think about how the IUCN looks at species from a conservation perspective, they talk about the conservation of fauna, flora, and fungi. So it's really important to consider the works of botanical gardens and plant collections from an ex situ conservation perspective, especially when we're thinking about the one plan approach and how the work of these institutions can feed into wild world conservation efforts of threatened horticultural species. Botanical gardens and collections of plants, such as this one, enable the public to experience the diversity of species that are not just those that we often think of in ex situ collections. It's not just lions and tigers and bears, oh my. It's also the diversity of producers, those key elements at the basis of ecosystems that we rely on as animals for our continued survival. And whilst there might be lots of ornamental species that are housed, kept and cultivated in botanical gardens, they also serve a role the same way as keeping least concern or common species in zoos for training skills in horticulture, botany and the propagation of threatened species of flora and fungi. So whilst we might see these beautiful flower beds of species, some of which we might recognise from gardens at home as something purely decorative, the growing and propagation of these sustainable populations really focuses conservation efforts for other more threatened species that we can have in our collections that need our help. So we've trained horticulturalists in the same way as we train zookeepers with these commoner, more garden species, getting their skills honed and perfected so they can really help with the conservation of other species of plants that are in dire need of assistance because of changes to wild habitats. The IUCN has a position statement on the role and value of ex situ collections in zoos, aquariums and in botanical gardens to conservation of biodiversity and threatened species. Not only do these collections enable the training of skills in propagation, as we've just mentioned, but they also ensure the viability of future populations by conserving genetic potential. Think about the Millennium Seed Bank, for example, that's managed by the Royal Botanical Gardens at Kew. So whilst we have these big botanical gardens and collections of trees and flowering plants and shrubs, etc., in our care, it's important to think about what they can add to the future. And that future is locked into the seeds and flowers and adult mature plants that are all managed differently, just in the same way as we manage breeding programs for animal species to ensure different life stages remain viable and sustainable. The IUCN position statement on the role and value of zoos and botanical gardens clearly underpins that evidence-based approach to conservation, which is so important from a one plan perspective. Evidence-based horticulture is also the same as evidence-based husbandry, understanding the right conditions that plants need to grow, be propagated and survive. So just the same as we would look at behavioural ecology and evolutionary aspects of how animal species fit their habitat, so we need to recreate the same wild conditions for the plants that we look after to ensure the viability of populations moving forwards. Plants might grow out of their native ranges, but do they truly thrive? So replication of microclimates or water levels or air temperature or humidity or wind speed or whatever it is are all really important, just the same as considering things that our animals need in their immediate environment that we provide in the zoo. Here's a good example of getting the ecology of the species right when trying to propagate it in ex situ conditions. This is the blue water lily, which is the national flower of Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. In the wild, it grows in stagnant, slow-moving conditions in tropical water at a medium to quite deep depth. We can't grow this outdoors in many parts of Europe, but we can here in the Azores, where the temperature is perfect for propagation of this species. So understanding the wild microclimate of the water lily has enabled the successful propagation of it in some parts of the world. Just the same as we need to ensure we've got the conditions right for the animal species that we care for in our zoos and aquariums. So botanical gardens have much to offer. The IUCN estimates that there are around about 26,000 threatened species of plants, and that is likely a gross underestimation. Just the same as the number of not evaluated species or data deficient species that we have in the animal kingdom, this is also similar for many plants. And we're still discovering new plant species and changes to taxonomy all of the time, thanks to help with botanical gardens. A much bigger species of water lily in the genus Victoria, the giant water lilies from the Amazon, have been shown to be 3 species, not 2 species, because of the expertise and knowledge of those working with ex situ collections of these types of plants. These Amazon water lilies, Victoria cruziana, growing outside, very unusual for Europe, is another example of ensuring the correct microclimate for these types of species. If you'd like to know more about how botanical gardens have helped identify the 3 different species of giant water lily in the genus Victoria, please check out my YouTube video that shows and compares the 3 different species that are grown at the Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew. Last but by no means least, the botanical gardens of the world also provide habitats for a myriad of other species of native animals or free-ranging wildlife that enter them. So the habitats that are created within botanical gardens are not only useful and relevant to the propagation and sustainability of threatened species of trees, shrubs, flowering plants, ferns, orchids, bromeliads, you name it, but also for wild animals that come in and make these incredible green spaces home. This is not just a park with some beautiful specimens of plants in it. This is a collection of living organisms that are really important to conservation and to research into propagation and horticulture and how to ensure such populations remain sustainable into the future. So next time you visit a botanical garden, particularly a reputable one that has clear conservation objectives, think about the wider work that goes on outside of the garden's boundaries. These are not just collections of beautiful plants that inspire people to care for nature. They are actually really important collections of genetic diversity and genetic potential, ensuring the future survival of such populations in a rapidly changing environment, which is altering the wild growing conditions for many of the species that we take for granted. Thank you very much for listening.